Alright, well, I thought I'd go ahead and show you one of my recent and surprisingly cheap fleabay purchases that I made. And I bought this as kind of a schoolwork project, and I guess also you could say as a mechanical toy that I could play with. And I'm going to show you what it is and how it works. So first of all, you can probably tell by the title of the video and by the looks of this that yes, this is in fact a washing machine timer, particularly a Whirlpool. Or if we're going to get very particular, it's actually a Lady Kenmore unit. And this goes to one of the machines that I've been looking for quite some time now. At least over 6 months now, probably. In fact, I have a picture up here of one of the machines. That's the very model that I've been looking for. It's kind of hard to read on there, I know, but that's what it looks like. I have another picture here that shows a better what the control panel is a little better. This one is a Lady Kenmore Ultra Fabric Care 3-speed, so it's one of the higher end models with the light above the timer. And in fact, it's actually a 1990 model, so it's the same year as Sharky's 1990 Whirlpool. So there are the controls, cycle modifier knob. Ignore the cookies on top of it. I was kind of taken off of a vlog or forum that I downloaded that off of, and somebody was making cookie treats on that, and that just happened to be in the picture. So that's the other one, and this timer happens to be out of that very model. So it's actually, for those of you who are wondering, it's the 110.92093.100 model. So 920, that means it's from 1990, or it's a 1990 production model. So this is the very timer that goes to that unit. I bought this off of fleabay for $29. That was the timer itself, not including the knob and dial that I got separately for $11.50. So rounded up, that's pretty much 12 bucks. So altogether, that was $41, which is not bad for the condition. I mean, considering the condition that it's in. It's in pretty well. It's been refurbished, I think, because I got it off of a the seller that I bought it from had it at an appliance store, I think, which they're called appliance discounters, for those of you who are wondering. And they sell a lot of these reconditioned timers and stuff for pretty cheap, which is pretty nice. So this is part number 3353223. And actually, as it turns out, I got the very one. I got sent the very one that was pictured in the ad. So usually, what a lot of stores do is they sell you like a copy of the one they have pictured, if they have multiple parts. But this one, I actually got sent the very one that was pictured. So that's pretty nice. This is your wiring schematic there. And the terminal connections. These indicate the color of the wires, so like white and orange, violet and white and violet, yellow, red, etc. Blue, orange, tan. The T is for tan. BK is black, tan and violet, tan and W, which stands for white, pink, and all that, etc. And you're probably wondering also why it says black and white on either side, and that's because this one particularly has two connectors on it, whereas the one on the 1992 machine only has the one here on this side. The black connector is usually the one that will be driven by the timer motor. This is the motor, by the way. So you can see right there, you can read that. This is actually an AC synchronous kind of clock type motor, which drives a small little brown cogwheel here at the front, which you can see. And it's kind of It's kind of hard to see it there with the light, but I know, but that right there is the cogwheel, and it has all these little notches, and it has these teeth down here at the bottom, which is actually driven by a small pinion gear. It's kind of hard to see back behind there. You can probably kind of see it, that little white nylon looking thing back there. That's the pinion which drives this cogwheel, and it's supposed to turn at a certain speed depending on, you know, how it's because this is supposed to sync up with the line frequency, because it's an AC synchronous motor, so that's why they call it synchronous, of course. And there's part of the cam back behind there, and just to show you more information on that, this can handle up to 250 volts AC, 60 hertz, up to 15 amps, 1/2 horsepower, you know, all that good stuff. And this is the dial that I bought with it separately. This is actually not the original dial that would go on this particular unit, but I just happened to see it, and it was 11 bucks, so it was pretty cheap. So I decided to go ahead and buy it, and if it wasn't going to fit, I'd make it fit. But it turns out that this dial actually fits on there exactly, you know, the same as the original dial would. So it fits on there without any problems, and I'm very happy with it. So now I don't have to be stealing parts off the 1992 machine whenever I want to play with this. So this is just your regular typical push-pull timer switch that you push in to set it, and you turn it clockwise. This is the older style timer, so it only goes one way, and it sounds very, very healthy. In fact, if you look closely right there, you can see the mechanical arm right there moving. And since this is a step timer, it only moves one increment at a time. So, and the duration, usually the duration of these step increments on these older timers are usually about 2 minutes. So, because it says right there 2 RPMs. So, and this is actually the lever for the timer on-off switch, that when you push the knob in, this little plastic part here pushes down on this part, which pushes this over, and that shuts the timer off. And then when you pull it out, it releases, and that lets power in to the timer. Now, what I'm going to do now is take this side cover off here, which just slides off like this, and I'm going to show you the inside here. Now, a lot of Whirlpool, Kenmore, a lot of washing machine timers operate off of these cammed mechanisms here, which are stepped in different positions, and they're hard programmed to do a certain thing at a certain time, and it's very complicated. I know it sounds pretty complicated at first, but I think once you get to studying this and you learn how they work, it becomes more understandable to you. So this is, you know, these are all the cams here. These are the contact switches that the cams press up on at certain times to make the machine do certain things. And these are actually what control what the machine does. This is pretty much the brain of the machine. And these switches here are what operate and control different, you know, little things in the machine. Like, you know, for example, the reversing of the motor, that's controlled by these two contact switches right here. I've noted what these switches do, what each switch controls, but I'm not going to point them all out, because, you know, usually if you're working on your washer timer and you take it apart, it's most likely going to be very, very, very different from this one. So it's not going to have the exact same switches. And matter of fact, this is the lever here which pushes up on this switch here, and that cuts power off from the rest of the unit. So, and this little part right here, if you can see that little notched groove, if it'll focus, which you can sort of see it. As I push and pull this out, that little ridged, that edged area, that edge pretty much pushes up on that lever mechanism, and that cuts power from the unit. You know, you gotta excuse my stuttering and all that, because I'm kind of doing this. I'm speaking at the spur of the moment, so I'm not really rehearsing these videos ahead of time. So please excuse me. I apologize ahead of time. And then this is the other side of the contacts, which do control the separate little extra things, like the triple dispensers, the wash and rinse, like when the machine switches over from the wash temperature to the rinse temperature. This one also has like a light above the timer, which is also controlled by the power switch, I think. And you know, all these little cams control certain things, and it's very, very interesting to see how, you know, study up how this works. And there's the stepped cam right there at the edge. And now here, this is the cogwheel. Usually a lot of washer timers have these what are called sub-interval switches, and what that is usually these little notches here on the cogwheel usually control, they push up on these levers that control the different switches for, like, you know, the little extra stuff like the spray rinse. On this particular one, this has two sub-interval switches, that one controls the spray rinse and the other one controls the fabric fastener dispenser. And I think that would be this notched area here. This upper area I think would be for the spray rinses. As you can tell, that's kind of notched out right there, if you could see. And this bottom notched area I think is for the fabric fastener dispenser. Usually how that works is this usually pushes up on the switch and turns it on, is what I would if we're intelligent, and I think that's what it would do. And usually this would only come on for a short period of time, and you know, because it's a sequence, it's a timed sequence, and then it shuts off for probably about maybe 30 to 45 seconds and comes back on for maybe 10 to 15 seconds and then shuts off. So it's a timed sequence. As this turns by, as this little cogwheel turns slowly clockwise, this tab here pushes up on the switch back behind there, and that's how that's controlled. So, and as you can tell, there's a lot of complicated mechanical stuff back there, that it will take time to, you know, to research and get to know how they works. But you know, the more you study, the more obvious it'll become to you, I guess. So, and since this is a 3-speed timer, it has an extra delicate cycle. So around here, this is where the delicate cycle would be. This is where your permanent press cycle would be. Around this area is where your soak and pre-wash would be, and here is where your cotton sturdy, as it's labeled on these older lady Kenmores, would be, and up here would be a second rinse option, because this is a pretty high-end timer unit which goes to a pretty high-end machine. And here are the terminals. You can see there are a couple blanks, there are some blank spaces here in the timers, or the disconnect block. And on the other side there, usually this side would be the one that controls like what the motor does, what, you know, direction it does, what direction and speed it would go, and the spray rinse and power switch and all that. You know, you get the point. And so I'll just set it back to where it was. Right there. At that last click, that's when it's off. So there you go. That's pretty much a quick video. I mean, I know it's kind of heading up on 15 minutes here, but that was kind of a quick video showing how these older timers on a washing machine work. And usually the problem that you'd be having is sometimes a lot of these contact switches can get burnt and deteriorate. These little contact points right there can over time get deteriorated, and they can begin to arc, and they can short out, and it ends up quit working. Or sometimes these cams can get worn out or chewed up and whatnot. All these little ridged parts here. So if you're having a problem and your timer's not advancing or it's not doing a certain thing, this is probably the first thing that you should check. Also, your motor could also possibly be shorted out. And this, this is pretty simple mechanical stuff that, it may seem complicated at first, but it'll be pretty easy to get to understand how each little nook and cranny of this works. So, you're gonna think I'm crazy and that, it's just a washing machine timer. What's the big deal? Well, for the last probably year or so, I've been kind of getting into these mechanical little doodads and how they work. I'm kind of a fan of studying up how these things work and what they are, and how they're built and all that. So I kind of have a fascination for mechanical washing machine timers, if I'm completely honest with you. So that's pretty much a gist of how these are supposed to work. So I hope you enjoyed that. If it was helpful to you in any way, please click the like and subscribe button so I can provide more of these videos for you here in the future. So thanks for watching once again. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.